as to how the Islanders are going to deal with Ryan Pulock's absence, at least the first answer. We'll talk about that, plus a whole lot more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. So glad you could join us here today for the weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Gil Martin with you. And thank you, everybody, for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and that now also includes YouTube. So if you want to watch this episode instead of just listening to it, just head on over to YouTube, do a search for Locked On Islanders, and you'll see all of our recent episodes right there, and you can watch them at your leisure. Lots to talk about on today's show. The Islanders finally home after that long, difficult 13-game road trip to start the season. The UBS Arena, first the Calgary Flames on Saturday, then the Toronto Maple Leafs on Sunday. We will preview both games, break it down for you, and talk a little bit about what it means for the Islanders to finally be home. We also have a couple of emails from listeners, which I'm happy to talk about, and we'll discuss the Islanders' move in now the situation surrounding Ryan Pulock. How are they going to handle it? We talked about that on yesterday's show. The Islanders answering that today, and we'll talk about that on today's show as well. First, wanted to update everybody on also Josh Bailey's situation. But if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic that you'd like us to talk about, feel free to email the show. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. So let's get to the transaction aspect of it first. Josh Bailey, still in COVID protocol, tested positive, and as of Thursday, Bales was still down in Florida, so looks unlikely that the longest tenured Islander will be joining the team for this historic home opener unless he somehow tests negative and passes out of the protocol in the next few hours. Looks like Bales will be missing it's at least Saturday's game and possibly Sunday's game as well. We will wish Josh Bailey a complete and speedy recovery from COVID. Hope he does not have a very serious case and that he can come back home and rejoin the team as soon as possible. The other aspect of the transactions, we mentioned Ryan Pulock out 4 to 6 weeks with a lower body injury, and the Islanders had a number of options. Well, the option that Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders chose is bringing up Robin Salo from Bridgeport. He was brought up on a loan, on an emergency loan, and he will be available for this weekend's games. Now, whether or not he'll actually be in the lineup or whether he'll be the 7th defenseman, that remains to be seen. And Barry Trotz has to make that decision at some point. But honestly, I like this move. And I'll tell you why. Robin Salo quite simply has earned it. And to me, it's a no risk or low risk idea. Salo is clearly, with 2 goals and 8 points, the best defenseman that the Islanders have right now down in Bridgeport. So he was also, played very well, made a good impression in training camp and in the preseason this year. Yes, it's not ideal conditions. He's going to be playing quite possibly on his opposite side the left-handed shot on the right side. But you know what? If it doesn't work out, look, the conditions are not perfect, but when are they? Realistically, perfect. They're not. If it doesn't work out, if the kid can't handle it, then Salo learns, hey, I got more work to do. He goes back to Bridgeport. They make another move, bring up somebody else or acquire somebody else and, see what happens. But because Salo is playing so well down in Bridgeport and really has earned this opportunity, I think that it's the right move to make. It also tells your players, hey, down in Bridgeport, you play well and an opportunity comes up, you will be rewarded. And let's see what Robin Salo has. Again, I think he will be in the lineup come at least one of the two games this weekend, but we'll see what Barry Trotz has in mind. But the Islanders do make that move. Here's what Trotz had to say, by the way, about Salo. From all reports out of Bridgeport and then what we saw of him out of preseason, he is a guy that is deserving of at least an opportunity. Matthew Barzal adding a super smart D-man who moves really well, has great hands. I think he has a great IQ for the game. It's going to be nice to see him up with us. Hopefully he gets in lineup. The Islanders also, by the way, had on Thursday their first ever practice at the UBS Arena. That was exciting. And look, one thing that you do have to keep in mind as of right now, this home ice advantage that most teams have, it's going to take a little time for the players to learn the ins and outs of the arena. One of the things that home ice advantage gives you is the boards, how the puck reacts off the boards, off the posts. You sort of know the little ins and outs of your home rink. Well, the Islanders really won't know that, and it'll take a little time. Now, 16 of the next 21 games are at the UBS Arena. That certainly will help. And I would say after the first 5 or 6 games, this team will start to have a home ice advantage. And I think that is a really good thing to look forward to. And great to see them taking the ice. It was funny. There was a video making the rounds on YouTube that a couple players were doing rock, paper, scissors to see who would be the very first player to take the ice during the very first practice at the UBS Arena. So that was kind of a funny, cute little video that was making the rounds. By the way, Robin Salo will wear number 2 for the New York Islanders when he comes up. So if you see number 2 out there over the weekend, you'll know that is Robin Salo. We have got a lot more to discuss. We have a couple of emails from listeners to get to. We'll preview both of this weekend's games, and we have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. Let me tell you something. I love Thanksgiving. All the good food and treats and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. Well, it's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. You can feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. But most Built Bars are only 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, and they pack plenty of protein. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, and all the flavors are covered in 100% chocolate. Built is a great option for when you're hungry, and if Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or 2. We'll have new surprises all month, limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so check the site often. And coming up soon, there's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. So let's get to some listener emails right now. And the first one is from Phil on Long Island. He writes, "Hi, Gil. I have a question and wanted to know your thoughts. It's often been said that by Thanksgiving, teams and their position in the standings are generally where they will be by the end of the season. With Thanksgiving being next week, do you think this will hold true for the Isles, or do you think that their unusual road schedule for their season start due to the UBS Arena being completed would make this not apply? Great podcast as always. Let's go Islanders. Phil from Long Island. Phil, thank you for the email and for the kind words. I certainly do appreciate that. I think that the 13-game road trip does make you take this start that the team is having with a grain of salt. I don't think that, if this team is at or around 500 at Thanksgiving and they have 3 games to go and they're 1 point under NHL 500 right now, that is not, in my mind, indicative of what kind of a team this is. And look, the Islanders last year were below 500 on the road and very, very good at home. And even if they match, that 500 on the road or a little below 500 on the road, they now have 41 home games left and 28 road games. And that will give them an advantage and an opportunity to make up some ground. And I just think this is an unusual set of circumstances. And the Islanders, if they had even just 5 out of their 13 games at home and they went, let's say, 3-1-1, you increase the point total. And yes, the Islanders are in 8th place in a very competitive Metropolitan Division, but they're not that far away from getting right back into the thick of things. So, yes, I think that I would take it all with a grain of salt and give the Islanders, I would say, at least 2 more weeks to show that they're a better team than their 13-game road start to the season would indicate. Have another email right now, Jacob from Liberty University. He writes, with Ryan Pulock being injured for a good amount of time, who do you think that Lou is going to try to work out something via trade? Also, talking about trades, what early opinions do you have on the trade deadline? Final question, do you think UBS is able to recreate that Coliseum atmosphere? After looking at pictures, the ceiling is low, but the lower bowl is nowhere near as steep, and I think it is too wide. Thanks, Jacob from Liberty University. And of course, he writes, let's go Islanders. Jacob, thank you so much for the email. Look, we know right now that Robin Salo will get the first chance to be the replacement for Ryan Pulock. I think what Lou Lamoriello is going to do, he always says, if you have time, use it. That's one of his favorite sayings. And I think that basically, if Salo doesn't work, you may see another player called up to try to fill that void. And if they try 2 or 3 different players and none of them can really fill the void, then and only then do I think Lou Lamoriello looks for a trade route, unless he can find something, a player at a reasonable price who's not going to break the salary cap and who's not going to cost them too much in the way of draft capital or another player. Maybe he pulls the trigger, but I think we're at least a week away from seeing that. As far as the trade deadline goes, again, do they need another puck-moving defenseman? We'll see. Maybe Salo fills that void. And then the other thing is still the sniper. This team is still struggling to score goals. We're still a few months away from the trade deadline, but I think it is very realistic to expect that Lou Lamoriello will make some kind of move depending on where this team is. As for the UBS Arena, replicating or recreating that Coliseum atmosphere, I think that it will have aspects of the Coliseum atmosphere. The low ceiling should make it noisy like the Coliseum was, and of course the Islander fans will make it noisy. If the lower bowl is not steep enough, then that will more affect the sight lines than anything else. But we have to see. And until tomorrow, nobody is really going to know. I'll tell you this, though, Jacob, we will keep an eye on it. I will be talking to fans and interacting with fans and reading what they have to say on social media. And we'll see. But I think over time, it'll take aspects of that Coliseum atmosphere and, of course, incorporate its own flavor and its own personality. And eventually, by the end of this season, we will have a UBS Arena culture going for the New York Islanders and their fans. And we just sort of have to see exactly what that's going to be. What we do know, however, is this game at the UBS Arena, the Calgary Flames, and then the opponent, Calgary 8-5 on the season. Actually, are playing as I'm recording this a Thursday, up big on the Buffalo Sabres. So look for Calgary to go to 9-3-5. And the main reason behind Calgary's success right now is their defense and their goaltending. They are second in the league with just 34 goals against, and Jakob Markstrom has a 1.82 goals against average and a 938 save percentage. In 12 games, he already has 4 shutouts. That is outstanding. And Dan Vladar, his backup, similar numbers, a 196 goals against average and a 933 save percentage, and he has a shutout already. So you already can see that this team has very, very strong defense, and that the Islanders will be challenged to score, especially since the Islanders are struggling offensively. 8th in goals scored, 2nd in goals against. This is a tough, talented team. And even their special teams, power play comes into Thursday's action 10th in the league with a 22.4% conversion rate, and they're killing off 86% of opposing power plays. They are 5th in the league on the PK, which means it'll be a challenge for the Islanders' struggling power play to get something going against the Flames. Elias Lindholm right now, 17 points in 16 games, leading the team in that category. Johnny Gaudreau has 16 points right behind him. Matthew Tkachuk, 7 goals and 12 points. And Andrew Mangiapane, 10 goals. That leads the team in that category. At the Lindholm centers Backlund is the second liner with Blake on Monahan and Tyler Pitlick are on his side. On Lucic and Trevor Lewis are the winners. On defense, Hanifin, Asmus Anderson, Aaron Oliver, and then our pair of Markstrom. Calgary are a very healthy. And that have Serena, the Toronto Maple Leafs coming in now for the Maple Leafs. This will be second game of a back-to-back, as Saturday they are hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins. Toronto also in action right now. They are leading the Rangers, leading the second period as the Maple Leafs. Well, they're on a little bit of a winning streak right now. A hot team that is playing very well. Jack Campbell has been the starting goalie, and he's on fire. Better numbers even than the Flames goaltenders. 9-3-1 on the year, but a 1.68 goals against average and a 943 save percentage. 3 shutouts in 13 starts for Campbell. He's been on fire. William Nylander leads the team with 16 points in 17 games, followed by some guy named John Tavares. That's right. With 15 points in 16 games. He leads the team with 8 goals. Mitch Marner, 4 goals and 15 points. Austin Matthews, always dangerous, 7 goals, 14 points. And you go up and down this lineup. This team is dangerous team, especially offensively. The amazing right now, 12th in goals scored, 60 goals against. But again, special teams, very important. And they are 6th in the league on the power play, cashing in 1 out of every 4 times they have the man advantage, and 3rd on the PK, 87.5% success, killing opposing penalties. We look at the lineup combinations. Top line, Austin Matthews with Nick Ritchie and Mitch Marner on either side of him. Tavares is the second pivot. Alexander and William Nylander are his wingers. On the third line, David Kemp, centers Pierre Paul and Andre Cachet. Jason Spezza is the fourth line center with Michael Bunting and Wayne Simmons on either side of him. There is depth there. That's a veteran, experienced fourth line. Morgan Riley and TJ Bree, the defense pair. Jake Muzzin and Justin Holl are the second pairing, with Rasmus Sandin and Travis Dermott being the third pairing. Jack Campbell and Joseph are the goalies. Right now, they are without Peter Mrazek, their backup goalie, and Ilya Mikheyev. He is on the IR. So 2 big games coming up. Looking forward to the festivities before the first puck drop. And this is going to be special and memorable years and their fans. And we will, of course, be back on Monday to tell you ways from both, as we always do. This episode is brought to you by your friends at betonline.ag. We're back and better than ever with a new web interface for the start of the basketball and hockey season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. So head to our new updated desktop or mobile website today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. So yes, betonline.ag will give you 50% welcome bonus, free money to bet on site because you listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast. From basketball, football, baseball, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and we're going to go back to a goalie who was only briefly a New Englander. Saturday, 55th birthday for former Islanders netminder Tom, drafted by the original Winnipeg Jets in the 8th round of 1985 NHL entry draft. 4 productive years at the University of Vermont. Made in 1989 with Buffalo and then joined the Islanders. Played 7 games for the Isles, 1993-94, had a 4.23 goals against average and an .864 save percentage on some teams that were battling for a playoff berth, barely made it in as the final seed that year. Later in 1995-90, before finishing his career in the minor leagues and in Europe. For his career, Draper had 3 NHL games, 3.70 goals against average, and 8.7. But we're going to look at his total money in 1993 down in Tampa. Islanders Lightning. Tom Draper, goaltender for Islanders, while goes with in goal. One off for the Islanders. Early, Tim Berglund gets his first from Brian Bradley, and just 2:35 into the game, and it's 1-0 Tampa. Islanders trailing. Goal coming just after a penalty to Darius Kasparov expired, but the Islanders get back to the game later on in that first period. Tom Curvers, his third from Marty McInnes at 13:09, evens the game at 1, and then Derek King gives the Islanders the lead, his 6th from Steve Thomas and Turgeon, 15:46. Islanders up 2-1 after 1 period. In the second, only 1 goal scored, and it was scored by the Islanders. Derek King, game 7th of the year. Rich Pilon and Pierre Turgeon with the 54 from Islanders after 40 minutes. In the third, with Dennis R. in the box for high-kicking Ray Ferraro. Advantage scores on the power play. Fourth from Benoit Hogan, Tom Curvers at 7:40. Pat Elliott scored with 12 seconds left in the third period. His third from Brent Gretzky, Wayne's brother. And Islanders 4. Bay Lightning. Islanders' birthday of the day. The Islanders are for happy 50th day for and we wish him happy more. One on Islanders, you listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis insight from handicapping expert Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Folks, enjoy this weekend. It will be historic. The Islanders opening their new arena, having the first two games there. Let's hope that the home cooking benefits this team and helps them bounce back and end this 4-game losing streak. We'll have all the key takeaways from these two games and a whole lot more on my show. Stay safe, everybody. And of course, let's go Islanders.